folks. Welcome to another episode of Toronto Talk Sports and More. This is episode number 15. Zion Hezekiah here, a.k.a. Hez. Joined by Milan Sonegra, a.k.a. Milan the Man, a.k.a. Milo. What's going on, big guy?
Yes, sir. Good to be back. Episode number 15, another milestone, man.
Is that a milestone?
5, 10, 15. We should just celebrate every 5 episodes.
Oh, boy,
right?
Let's do it, man. Let's do it.
That's it.
So how was your week, man?
It was good, man. You know, keeping busy. Again, the weather's been the sun's been shining. It's
Indeed.
been humid out.
Can't complain?
Yeah, can't complain, man. Been downtown, been all over the city.
Good
Working
stuff.
hard, enjoying. Work hard, play hard, right?
That's what we like to hear, man. Good stuff. So listen, I want to share something with our audience.
Don't you always want to share stuff?
I'm a sharing kind of guy. What do they say?
are.
Sharing is caring,
That's
caring is
right.
sharing, which is something I try to instill with my kids. So, and they're very good. So
That's good.
Shout out to my little ones. So I received a text message from a very close friend of mine, female, earlier this afternoon. So here it is. I'm going to read it and kind of get your feedback on it.
Okay.
We're auditioning male cheerleaders for the Raptors, and the mayor, John Tory, hired Cardinal Official to be our spokesman for anti-gun violence. Toronto is a laughingstock. Wow.
Wow.
Your thoughts there, Milo?
So male cheerleaders for the Raptors. I'll have to say I go to quite a few Raptor games throughout the year.
Yes.
Past season I've sat courtside twice, so I'm up close and personal with the cheerleaders. So I'd rather see the females. I'm not gonna lie. But hey, listen. You know what? It's diversity. If there's going to be males, it's all about equal opportunity. Women have been fighting for their rights and independence and all this stuff. So if the men need to get in there and
so you
shake some pom poms and go ahead, right?
So you have no problem with watching men, joining the dance routine.
I think I would, but I don't think women would have a problem at the game watching.
I think they might. From the standpoint of what I would look at it, in terms of what you said earlier, equal opportunity, that would more or less take opportunities away from females, take away employment opportunities away from women who would obviously dominate.
Would they have both
area.
still? Would they have women?
It would be both. They're looking at a co-ed situation, with the Raptors.
I don't see a problem with it.
To me, the way I look at it is, and it's not, I don't want to necessarily watch men, but I mean, we're already watching men compete on the hardwood floor. We're watching the best of the best in terms of the best athletes, compete on the hardwood basketball. From, an entertainment standpoint, I could care less to see men, shaking their whatever, joining the particular dance pack. I just don't like it, and I think, as I said, it's kind of taking opportunities, employment opportunities away from females.
I think the people that would have the more stronger opinions are season ticket holders, guys, people that are at the games let's face it, on TV, how often you see the cheerleaders. Very rare, right? So, that's not really going to bother me. I attend, maybe 5-6 games a year. I can deal with it. I'm there to watch the games, have some fun, and that's it.
It's not the biggest deal in the world. We'll see, what kind of, if it does get any backlash at all. But I guess, from a standpoint of, giving opportunities perhaps to men, in that particular field where it's been dominated by women. I guess everything is, it's all about equal for everything, right?
Yeah,
so,
as far as Cardinal goes, being, what is he, the spokesman for?
Well, so here's the thing. So Cardi, and here's my thing on it. So, he did release, I guess he put something out there about a week ago or so, obviously addressing this main issue that we've been having in Toronto over the last little while. There seems to be a major spike in gun violence in our city, which is definitely a concern. So Cardi's always been kind of a voice of reason, and certainly has admiration and love for the city. He's always been that kind of positive voice. So I don't particularly have any problems with him, meeting with city officials, like the mayor, trying to perhaps sort things out and see if there's anything that he, as an entertainer, as somebody known in the community, can lend a hand in terms of perhaps it's whether it's more programs or whatever else. I don't know what was discussed, but what are your thoughts in terms of, I guess, my friend, she had an issue with Cardinal for some reason.
Well, I think he's one of the role models here in Toronto when it comes to music influence. There's Cardinal, there's Chuck Lair, there was Maestro Fresh West, Drake obviously is blown up. But I've seen Director X, obviously, was in that meeting as well, OVO 40, Drake's producer.
That's right.
So these guys are musicians and influencers that, young people listen to, right? They listen to
and that's
their
the
music.
key word, influencers.
Absolutely.
They have some kind of influence,
They
right?
follow them on social media. I actually personally follow OVO 40 on social media, and he put out something about gun violence and stopping it in the city. So all of these heartfelt messages are all directed and aimed at the youth of Toronto and just getting them to put the guns down, right?
They seem to have a genuine, sincere passion for, just, the love of the six, which is our slogan, for the love of the six, let's connect,
Absolutely.
TTS.
I think everybody
in terms
wants
of,
that.
peace in the city and, for safety for everybody, right?
Absolutely. And, our podcast tries to bring the people together, talk about sports, get away from real life sometimes, right? So, it's disheartening and heartbreaking to see the stuff going on in the city. If we could send a message to the youth out there, put down the guns.
So to my dear friend who sent me that text, yes, I have an issue with male cheerleaders, but I have no issue with Cardinal Official, one of my favorite Canadian rappers, and keep spreading positivity.
Winter tryouts, maybe, you and I should go.
That'll be the day.
Yeah.
So listen, we got a big show today, Milo. Quick episode overview. We're going to discuss some World Cup. It's the semifinals. And then there was 4. Dun, 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 dun.
Yes, sir.
So we'll discuss that. We have an exclusive interview with the Canadian Olympic athlete, so very much looking forward to that. We have some baseball talk, which we haven't done too much. There's always something going on. Obviously, the NBA was really big. Now it's the off season, but there's still so much going on. So we will give baseball a little bit more time than we usually do. So looking forward to that. We have some basketball talk today, always basketball. And we have a very special guest joining us in studio there. Mm-hmm. And we have a legendary Canadian comedian joining us in studio for our And More segment. So a big show, Toronto Talk Sports and More, episode number 15. Let's do it.
All right, TTS, Milo here with you for a FIFA 2018 World Cup update. And I'm very pleased to be joined on the line by episode number 8 guest, one of our TTS extended family members from Royal LePage Real Estate, Mario Armani. How are you, Mario?
I'm doing fantastic, Milo. Thank you so much for having me back on the show. I'm really excited to be back on.
Good to hear, my man. So, the World Cup just keeps getting more intriguing and exciting as the rounds go by. This past weekend, there were 4 games. No surprise, France beat Uruguay quite easily, and England defeated Sweden to move on. But in a rather surprising development, Belgium knocked off one of the heavy favorites, Brazil, and in a thriller, Croatia defeated the home team, Russia, in penalty kicks. Mario, what did you make of all the action over the weekend, buddy?
Absolutely unbelievable. This has gone on to be one of the best World Cups in the history of soccer. There's so many people actually that are saying that this is the best World Cup, and I couldn't agree more.
Me too.
There's absolute action, not only from the big teams, but also from these other countries that nobody's really expecting them to beat these bigger powerhouses. And overall, it's just been unbelievable.
Yeah, this is also, I read a fun fact, this is also the first time Brazil, Argentina, and Germany have not reached the semifinals of the World Cup, which I find is simply amazing.
It's definitely unbelievable. As you guys remember from my previous show, I did say that Argentina wasn't really going to do much. I did think that Brazil was going to go a little bit further in the tournament. Definitely Germany did surprise me, not coming out of the group stage, which was definitely a shocker for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's definitely in tune. A lot of these bigger countries, such as Argentina, Brazil, they have to do a lot of renovating when it comes to players, getting rid of some of these older guys who their time has passed. They got to let the new young players step in, right?
Absolutely. It's all about the young breed now, right? So let's get on to the final 4. First up is France and Belgium at 2 o'clock on Tuesday. I personally think this is going to be a terrific game. What do you think?
Milo, I'm counting down the seconds to this game. I absolutely think it's going to be the best game of the tournament. I actually think it's going to be a better game than the final.
Wow.
France is just overall very, very dominant. Mbappe in forward, it's going to be a hard guy to stop. But Belgium overall, they're completely stacked. Their goalie is just unbelievable. I actually feel he's the reason why they actually beat Belgium. He came up with 2 or 3 big saves, including that massive save in the 93rd minute against Neymar. It's going to be an unbelievable game.
Okay, perfect. So how about England and Croatia? Any thoughts on that on Wednesday?
I think easily. I don't think England's going to get past Croatia that easily. They're definitely a more talented team than Sweden. But overall, I think they're going to have their hands full. But I do see England coming out on top. In terms of France and Belgium, I think that's going to be more of a game that it's anybody's game.
Yeah, it's a toss-up. England, I mean, they've been partying like crazy over there, just wanting to get back to that final, right?
Yeah, you know what, though? They haven't played any big contenders. So, You know what? They may get past Croatia, but at the end of the day, Croatia, if they're playing their game, they're going to have a difficult time. I do see England reaching the final. I definitely think England's first tough challenge will be in the final. So let's see what happens with that one.
For sure, absolutely. Finally, Mario, we gave our soccer insider, NWB Nee, an opportunity to pick the winner of the World Cup last week. So I'm going to allow you the same opportunity. Who do you like to hoist the World Cup this Sunday?
Who I would like to hoist the World Cup would be Belgium. In my the last time I was on TTS, I did say that Belgium was my dark horse. I thought that it was a team that they were going to go far in the tournament. My predictions came true. They're in the semifinal. I do see them edging out France. I don't know if they're going to beat them in regular time. They may go to penalties. I really don't know. I really feel that Belgium's going to beat France, and I do see them winning the tournament.
Belgium all the way.
Right.
All right. Well, you know what? I got a lot of family in England, so I'm rooting for England. Let's see how it goes. I'm sure we'll do a full recap next week. But you know what? Great. Thanks, Mary. I really appreciate the time, buddy, and we'll see if your predictions hold true this week and weekend, eh?
Sounds great, Milo. I really appreciate the invitation to come back on the show, and want to say hi and thank you to everybody for listening.
For sure, buddy. Thanks a lot. We'll see you soon.
Sounds great. Have a good one.
All right, you too. Toronto Talk Sports and more.
Hez back here with my man Milo, and we're going to talk some track and field, and specifically some Canadian track and field. We are very pleased to be joined on the line today with Canadian Olympic sprinter Aaron Brown. Aaron, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Welcome, Aaron.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us, man. So for those that may not be, familiar with you, if they're living under a rock, not familiar with this super, very talented, athletic young man, Aaron is a 26-year-old Canadian sprinter born in Toronto, went to school in LA. He presently lives and trains in Florida. He's a 100 and 200-meter sprinter. He won an Olympic bronze medal with Canada's 4x100 relay team in the 2016 Summer Olympics in Rio de Janeiro. He also won bronze medals in 2013 and 2015 at the World Championships. He was a gold medal winner in 2017 in the 4x200-meter relay at the IAFF World Relays in Nassau, Bahamas. He was a silver medal winner in the 200-meter race this past April at the Commonwealth Games in Australia. And just a few short days ago, Aaron came in first place in both the 100 and 200-meter sprints at the Canadian Track and Field Championships in Ottawa. Boy, that's a mouthful. First of all, Aaron, many congrats to you, especially on your most recent accomplishments this past week in Ottawa, brother.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Awesome, awesome. So we spoke for a little bit yesterday when we were just kind of touching base, and you were telling me just how sore you were, obviously recovering from, the big events. How are you feeling today?
Yeah, I was pretty sore after running, 4 races in 2 days. But I'm a little better now. Getting better as I get some time off to rest and kick my feet up a little bit.
And recover, yeah.
Can't rest too long. The season's not over yet, so I got to get back to it.
Absolutely. So I got to ask this, man. Is it safe now to call Aaron Brown the fastest man in Canada? Do we co-sign that label?
It's always good to hear that. I've heard that before in 2013 when I won my last Canadian 100-meter title, and it's been a while since I've heard it, with Andre emerging as the top guy in Canada. But
definitely,
I just stuck with it and, believed in myself and my talent, and, I'm back at the same point I was at before.
Absolutely.
Awesome, Aaron. So, Milo here, big congrats, first of all, on all of your career accomplishments, and certainly on your most recent one at the Canadian Track and Field Championships. Really awesome to hear that, man. And I just wanted to find out, can you tell our audience a bit about your background in track and field? Take us back and tell us how it all got started for you.
Yeah, so I always ran track when I was young. I did it just for fun because I was a multi-sport athlete. I was just kind of do whatever sport was in season. So it could be like basketball season, track season, soccer season. And I kind of just rotated in between each sport. And one day in high school, Bill Stevens, my club coach at Phoenix Athletics, he saw me run for Birchmount, and he said, hey, you could be really good at track if you actually took this seriously. You should think about coming out for club track in the summer. And originally I reserved the summertime for, fun with my friends. I'm like, nah, I don't want to do that.
For sure.
But then he offered to pay my club dues. So I said, okay, you might be onto something. He really wanted to come. So I did it, and I ran faster. And then after that, I kind of made a pact to myself, like, all right, I'm going to take this next year seriously and see how far I can go with the sport. And I started learning about things that I didn't actually know about before, like the fact that there was a world youth competition, where it's like the top people in the world under 18. So I qualified for that the next year and ran a lot faster, ran the Canadian youth record. in the 100 and got the silver at the World under 18 games. And from then on, I just stuck with track, and I said, okay, I just want to keep pushing and see how far I can get and how much I can accomplish.
I think I should have got into track because I still reserve the weekends for downtown Toronto.
I think, Aaron, when you say, you're used to spending summers with your friends, come on, let's be honest. You mean you're spending summer with the ladies, chasing the girls. Oh, man. So listen, in terms of preparation and training, which, many might not quite understand just how long and grueling the process is and just how serious it takes and, the focus and commitment to compete at that high level. It's obviously you don't just lift a few weights, do a little bit of stretching here and there, and then run and compete in a major championship. Tell us a little bit about what exactly goes into preparing for a major track competition.
Oh, man, you're right. It's a lot of sacrifice and hard work. People train 5-6 times a week, and, my group, we lift 4 times a week. And then after you finish training and lifting, you have your massage and physio appointments to make sure you keep the tires on point and maintain your body so you don't get hurt. Because when you're going these kind of speeds and putting that kind of load on your body, lifting heavy weights, things tend to get sore or out of place and injuries happen. So you want to make sure you maintain that. And then off the clock, you're trying to rest and get ready for the next day. You don't have a lot of time to go out and have, crazy fun at the beach running around. You got to reserve your energy for the next day of training.
Stay focused, yeah.
Quick turnaround time.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure. Well, so switching gears just a bit, Aaron, let's talk a bit about your Canadian teammate, Andre DeGrasse, who, of course, had the distinct pleasure of racing alongside Usain Bolt, regarded as the fastest man in the world. He won the silver medal in the 200-meter race at the 2016 Summer Olympics. Unfortunately, Andre pulled his hamstring last week in the 200-meter race that you won. We certainly wish him a speedy recovery. I heard today that he's actually out for the rest of the season. But can you just tell us a little bit about your relationship with him and perhaps how the two of you train together to bring out the best in each other?
Yeah, so we don't actually train together.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
He trains in Phoenix, and I train in Florida. But, we were on the same relay team, so anytime we're going to Worlds or the Olympics, we'll have a training camp where we'll get to work with each other and work on our stick work to make sure that we put a good product when we get on the track as a 4x1 unit. But, I wish him a speedy recovery. It sucks to see one of the top guys get injured. Was definitely looking forward to racing him again in the 200, but these things happen, and I believe that his team is in place to get him back on track in the upcoming years, and we'll make the best decisions for him in his career.
For sure.
Definitely. We definitely wish him all the best. So listen, Aaron, we've got the Summer Olympics right around the corner, 2020 in Japan, Tokyo, Japan. You'll be 28 by then, right in the prime of your career. Do you possibly look at the 2020, Summer Games as your final appearance in the Olympics? And what's your main focus, perhaps mentally, as far as preparing for the Summer Games?
I think I've always looked at my career and kind of, you never know when you're going to finish, right? Like, it's easy to speculate and say, I'll be done at this age. But some people think they'll run forever. Some people think they'll be done, the next year. But at this stage, I think I want to do 2 more Olympics, and 2024 would probably be my last one.
Yeah, you'll be 32 then, right?
Right. And some people peak in their late or early 30s, sorry. So you never know where my career will take me, but 2020 is definitely one that's on the board, and something that I'm gearing towards and kind of working backwards each year. And this year I've made steps towards becoming a better position to achieve my goals come 2020, and I just want to keep improving and heading towards that big moment.
Awesome.
For sure, man. So as we wrap things up with you, Aaron, can you just tell us, outside of track, what are your favorite sports? Like, which leagues do you follow? Do you play any other sports?
Yeah, so I play basketball in the off season. Ball is life, and I love basketball.
Ball is life. Yep.
Grew up playing, and I definitely follow the league. LeBron's my favorite athlete of all time. So
oh wow!
I guess now I'm. Yeah, I know. Begrudgingly, I'm a Laker fan now.
Well, I'm a Laker fan for life. Milo will tell you. I bleed purple and gold. So I'm not necessarily the biggest LeBron fan, although I have a lot of respect for him. But, things are definitely interesting in Lakerland over the last week.
Yeah.
So what about the hometown Raptors?
Yeah, I always root for the Raptors just because that's my home city, and even when I wasn't really supporting the Raptors that much, people would still make fun of me when the Raptors sucked just because I'm from Toronto and they know, hey, you're what's up with your Toronto Raptors? Like they roast me in the States just because they know I'm from Canada.
Yes.
Right.
I always support Toronto and everything Toronto. I bleed Toronto. I'm a Six guy,
It's good.
obviously, through and through. But, yeah, basketball I follow a lot, and I follow the NFL as well. I'm a Saints fan in that sport, and those two leagues I definitely follow a lot.
Drew Brees, eh?
Yeah, cool. Do you mind if I ask Milo quickly a follow-up question with basketball? Just real quick, what are your thoughts on the Golden State Warriors? The ultimate super team of all super teams. They just added Boogie Cousins, 5 all-star players. Well, real quick, what are your thoughts on that?
Man, it's unreal. It's kind of like 2K in real life. Like, the GM of the Warriors is playing my player on 2K. Crazy. Entire starting 5 made all NBA. But honestly, at some point, there's going to be too much talent, and personalities won't match, and people will want more money and something. I don't know if it's going to actually blend the way we think it's supposed to.
Yeah, and it can't last forever. Yep.
Yeah, they're saying Klay Thompson.
Yeah, or apart.
They're saying Klay Thompson might leave next year. So.
For sure. Well, listen, thanks so much for joining us, Aaron. It was a great pleasure having you on. We wish you nothing but the very best moving forward. Real quick before we wrap up, just in case our audience wants to learn a little bit more about you and follow you, perhaps stalk you on social media.
Slide into those DMs.
The ladies. What's your, let's say, Twitter and perhaps IG handle?
Oh, yeah. So you could follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Kingsley. That's KINGLEYSC. And my Facebook page is just Aaron Brown. You can find me on there as well.
Thanks a lot, Aaron. I'm going to go ahead and repeat that. Your phone seemed to be chipping out a little bit there. I want to make sure we got that. So it's Kingsley SC, so KINGSLEYSC. That's on Instagram and Twitter, so Kingsley SC. Thanks again for joining us, brother. Toronto Talk Sports and more.
Milo back here with Hez, and we are very excited to be joined by our special in-studio guest, legendary stand-up Canadian comic, Mr. Kenny Robinson, to talk some Major League Baseball. Kenny, thanks for being here.
It's a pleasure to be here.
All right, good to hear.
Awesome.
All right, so Kenny, I know you're a huge Chicago Cubs fan, so we'll get to them in a second. But let's start with our hometown Toronto Blue Jays. They are coming off a weekend home series against the powerhouse known as the New York Yankees. Jays won the opener on Friday night, but lost the last two as their record dropped to now 41-48, and now sit 20 games back of the AL East leading Red Sox.
7 games under 500.
Yeah, it's terrible. Just seems the Jays can't find that consistency in both their lineup and pitching rotation.
Well, there's no surprise. I mean, they don't have a good team.
Right. I agree. That's all I agree.
We're all on the same page there.
I mean, they've got a lot of high contracts they've got to pay. I mean, they've got one of the highest paid catchers in Major League Baseball, and is he what Martin's hitting now? What 223 or something?
Like that,
is
yeah.
Whatever it is, it definitely won't cut it.
Lewinsky, I mean,
does he even play baseball anymore?
Well, he gets a check, so I guess he's still playing.
Disappeared faster than David Copperfield, right?
I mean, the guy goes 0 for 4 on PlayStation.
Yeah.
So I mean, they're in a difficulty with that. I mean, they got rid of Pierce last week with
Boston.
Yeah, they're just unloading.
Why not
guys
send him to a rival, right? I mean,
well, no, it's not a rival.
No, it's not.
Well,
Yeah.
maybe if they trim the Baltimore, then it'd be a rival because they're fighting for the cellar.
Lottery picks.
But the Yankees and the Red Sox, the Jays are not rivals.
Yeah, you can't compete in that division unless you have the big bucks, which they have the money.
But nobody said that back in the day when the Jays were winning World Series.
That is true.
A million years ago, But I mean, the problem is the Jays. I mean, their pitching staff was supposed to be one of the better pitching staffs in the American League, and it seems like the pitcher's been dropping like flies for him this year.
Yeah, whatever happened to our closer, Roberto Osuna?
Oh boy, we don't want to touch that one right now.
Well, he's coming back.
Apparently so.
If he can hit the strike zone as well as he hits his girlfriend, then maybe the season won't be finished.
Wow.
Boom, boom.
This is great.
Now,
I didn't say it.
No, I said it. I got no apologies.
This is my type of humor.
The Jays will be very smart to unload him for whatever they can, and then if he does get suspended, he's going to be suspended. spend it for some other team.
Absolutely.
Same thing as what happened with Chapman when he pulled out his gun a couple of years ago, and then he got traded to the Dodgers, and then the domestic problems that ended that trade.
Right.
Bringing back some history, yeah.
And then the Cubs, he went to the Yankees, and the Cubs gave away their farm system, but they wouldn't have won without Chapman.
That's right. So now, as I mentioned, Kenny,
Now they got this kid Torres, who's the guy who was the key player they put in that trade, and he's injured now. Thank God, because he did look like runaway for Rookie of the Year, and I love him. I'm always going to cheer for him. And, you know, but you hate seeing somebody that good that used to be yours.
Right.
You know, like when you go out with a girl and when you know, her hair was never together, her wardrobe was kind of off.
And then you see her
Then
later
you see
on.
her 2 years later, and like everything
Put
is...
together.
Yes.
That's
You're
it.
saying, well, did
She
you
all
have
of a sudden,
surgery?
she all of a sudden went
She
from a
said-
C cup to a D cup.
She said, no, I just grew into my big teeth. You know? So, you know, so for this, it's less for me to feel bad about while he's on the
Did
DL.
we preface this by saying this would be an X-rated show?
No,
TTS?
yeah, that's fine.
We
No
haven't said
mention it?
anything obscene or
nothing bad.
dirty
That's
yet.
it.
Not yet. Yes is the operative.
Kenny, it must have been.
This is really off the record.
Kenny, it must have been such a joy for you to see the Cubs break the curse a couple of years ago. They finally won the World Series. Describe your feelings at the time, man.
It was like, because, well, yeah, I was like 58 years old. If they won when I was 10 years old, 12 years
You
old.
grew up in Chicago.
I grew up between Winnipeg and Chicago,
Yes.
but I
Okay.
fell in love with the 1967 Chicago Cubs.
Right.
So when you
You're the
spend...
least won the Stanley Cup.
That was the last
right.
year of it. So when you spend 40 years of your life cheering for a team, and they finally, you know, it's kind of like, well, gee, Ernie Banks is dead. He didn't get to see this.
No.
Ron Santos dead. He didn't get to see this. Then I think how my kid brother is dead. Didn't get to see it. Then I think about all the other Cub fans. And in fact, there's so many people that on all the Cub sports lines. If my grandfather took me to my first Cub game in 1941. I wish he had lived. So you know, 108 years without winning. That meant like 3-4 generations of people never knew what it was like to win.
Yeah.
So it was kind of anticlimactic
at
for
least
me.
Steve Bartman got to see them win, right? Is that too soon, or?
Well, Bartman, you know, I mean, Bartman was just another fan trying to get a souvenir.
That's right.
Except
Can't
for he
blame him.
looked like such a geek with the, you know, with the glasses and the headphones.
on,
But the thing is, though, Gonzalez, who was their shortstop, had made an error all season long, and I don't think he made one the year before. And it was a
Great
ground ball
defender.
hit to him, and he blew it. He was a double
Yep.
play ball.
Yep.
So, you know, I mean,
Horrible
Moises
luck,
Alou.
yep.
Bartman's not completely to blame there.
No, I
They're,
mean,
well, they're once again in the thick of things in the NL. Do you think they have a chance to go all the way this season?
I don't know if our starting pitcher's going to happen.
Okay.
You know, they let Arrieta leave, and they signed, what's his name, Udamish, or what are they?
You Darvish.
Yeah, Darvish, how it's pronounced. And meanwhile, it's the first
You call
time
him Damish if you want.
the returns on him definitely are diminishing. First time in my life I ever prayed for a pitcher to spend the whole season on the DL.
Oh, boy.
Because it means it's not a guaranteed loss. The guy has lost all of his confidence. They got 5 more years of him now.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
I hope if it's Tommy John that he needs, I hope they do that again.
Right.
You know, and then they signed this other guy that his problem was he can't go 3 innings without walking 7 hitters. So I think our starting pitching's not looking the best.
Okay. You guys got a great manager, though, in Madden, right? So hopefully he can lead you.
Actually, there are Cub fans saying fire Madden. Well, hey, I mean, in Toronto they fired the coach of the year,
of the year,
so
that's right.
you never can
Anything
figure that
possible.
out.
All right. Finally, gentlemen, over the weekend, it was the 22nd anniversary of an epic home run derby that took place at Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia. 2 main stars, Barry Bonds of the San Fran Giants and Mark Big Mac McGuire of the Oakland A's. Bonds went on to win the Instant Classic, but now, you and I have had this debate over the last few years, and I thought since Kenny was coming in, we could take this subject as well. Gentlemen, both Bonds and McGuire, as well as many other MLB stars, have been either caught or admitted using performance-enhancing drugs. This has tarnished their legacies and maybe even more importantly, ruined their opportunity to be inducted in the Pro Baseball Hall of Fame. Kenny, I will ask you, sir, do these men deserve to be in the Hall of Fame?
Absolutely, and the thing that disgusts me the most is Major League Baseball. They knew those guys were jacked.
Preach it, brother.
They knew they
Preach
were
it.
jacked, but because after the strike, fans stopped coming out to the ballpark. Then
Right.
all of a sudden, you had Sosa, you had McGuire, you had Bonds,
Palmeiro, all those guys.
Palmeiro. You know, as quiet as it's kept. What's the guy who played shortstop with the Indians and he became a professional hitter with the Texas Rangers?
Omar Vizquel?
No, he used to be a shortstop. Big arm guy. 47 years old. I think he's still trying to get back in the majors now. I can't.
That was Palmeiro. That was Rafael Palmeiro.
No. He was a black cat, Hispanic player.
Okay, we'll figure
It'll
it
come
out.
back to us.
No, not Fernandez. I'll remember. The name will come to me.
Okay.
We had a stroke or two, but But I mean, Major League Baseball, and when the fans are coming back to the ballpark to see these dingers, to see these taters, as Big John Mayberry used to call them, Major League Baseball wasn't checking anybody's year and then, So
it was thriving at that time with the Sosa and McGuire home
yes,
runs
and then after 9/11, when Sammy ran out onto the field carrying that little tiny American flag in his hand, you got to let the guy, walk. I do love the way how Sammy pretended he didn't understand English, though, when he took him to when Senate had their hearings.
Yeah. And now he looks like Michael Jackson. So.
It's Mr. Sosa. Have you ever taken? I don't know what you'll say, but baseball been better cool to me. So, Sammy. Now you seen him. Sammy's white.
He is white. Yeah.
And I know what happened. He figures it might help his chances of getting into the Hall of Fame.
That's why he did it, right?
As he said, if I'm a white player, they'll let me play in the Hall of Fame. But I mean, Roger Clemens. He was another guy that was supposedly juicing it during that period of time.
Rafael Palmeiro had that big finger wave at Senate, right? I did not do this or something like that.
Yep.
And
what are your thoughts? I mean,
Palmeiro's trying to get back in the league again.
Yeah, so for me, and I pretty much agree, I'm on line with Kenny. My issue isn't so much with, the speculation of what these guys did. I mean, everybody was doing it. It, wasn't necessarily banned or outlawed at that particular time. I just think that the Hall of Fame itself is a joke. I think certain aspects of even MLB itself, which obviously, connected with the Hall of Fame, is a joke. In terms of should they be inducted, when you have the career numbers of a Barry Bonds, whether it's a Mark McGuire, if it's strictly about the numbers, the statistics, the success that they had on the field, how can you deny them that distinction of being one of the greatest? Particularly in the case of Bonds, because he wasn't just a power hitter. You're talking about a guy, amazing defense,
great arm,
his speed, everything altogether. So even if he was juicing, which to this point there's no definitive proof, unlike others,
right?
With his all-around game, I mean, come on, give me a break. He was arguably the best overall player of my generation, up there with, I would say, Ken Griffey Jr., who obviously had career injuries and whatnot. But it's like a special private club that they'll let in whoever they want to let in.
And you still got to have
the like you, they like you. If they don't like you, they don't.
Ball anyway. The juice isn't going to affect your ability to make contact.
Right. I hear what you're saying. I just personally think if you caught cheating, I don't think you should be rewarded for getting in, but I do understand your points as well. And baseball was thriving at that time, right? They needed the numbers.
They definitely needed it. But then caught cheating is another thing. Now, is stealing signals, is that cheating? Is doctoring the ball, is that cheating?
Yeah, putting a little wax on the ball to get
scuffing it on the
grip
catcher's
or whatever the
straps
case.
of his shin
A little
guards.
Albert Bell putting stuff in his baseball bat.
That was
right?
classic. Pine tar.
Not George Bell, George Brett with the pine tar too far up on the handle.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
There are little things that you do as an athlete to get a competitive advantage. Yes, there is, cheating, and then there's, sometimes there's little minor things.
We forget in the 60s and 70s, half the ball players were on uppers. They were all being fed amphetamines by
big
their,
time.
greenies. I remember reading the book Ball 4. It was in 1970.
Drinking alcohol before the game. Not to say that gave them any advantage, but doing a whole bunch of different things.
Oh, how many home runs the great Mickey? Well, Mickey Mantle died because of his alcoholism. But I mean, how many home runs he hit? Hung over or after getting a bit of the horse, the hair of the dog that bit him in between innings. So. I just think their stats shows for what they should be.
For sure. Well, that was great, guys. And Kenny, thanks again for joining us for some baseball talk. I'm sure we'll definitely talk about that segment a little bit more. You're actually going to be sticking around for our And More segment, so definitely looking forward to chatting with you a little bit more. Thanks, guys. Toronto Talk Sports and more.
All right, so we're back with some NBA talk. Milo and I are very pleased to be joined by Steffany Dilleto of Steffi's World in Sports YouTube sports show. Welcome to TTS Studios, Steph. Happy to have you on.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here. I'm excited.
Welcome, Steph. We're excited to have you on.
You guys talk about all my favorite topics, a little bit of NBA. Well, a lot of NBA.
A lot of NBA.
Wait till NFL starts.
Oh, wait until the NFL starts. I can't.
Have a lot more to talk about. But now let's focus on the NBA, of course. And guys, as you know, it's the off season, but there's certainly no shortage of news and action around the league. Last week we spoke about the big free agent signings of LeBron James and DeMarcus Cousins, which are still very big hot stories around the league. This week, let's begin with some mellow talk. And by mellow, I don't mean soft and smooth talk. No. It ain't that kind of show, folks. We're talking about Carmelo Anthony. Now, news broke last week that the Oklahoma City Thunder were in the process of cutting ties with Carmelo by way of a trade or a buyout and a possible use of the league's stretch provision, which would save OKC over $100 million in luxury tax.
That's your type of money, right?
Big money, big bucks, big bucks, the big bucks. So, of course, guys, we know that Melo, he opted into his $27.9 million player option about a month ago, which is just the common sense thing to do from his standpoint. There's been a lot of chatter, obviously, guys, in terms of where his next landing spot will be. He has a bunch of, buddies, good friends around the league. Let's start off with, LeBron James, so potentially going to the Lakers and teaming up with LBJ over there. His other buddy, perhaps even closer friend, Chris Paul and Houston Rockets. And then some way, somehow, there was some speculation or some talk of him teaming up with Dwayne Wade in Miami. What do you guys think? Where do you really feel is the best fit for Carmelo Anthony at this particular point in his career?
Well, there's a lot of things being thrown around. You've got, like you said, the Lakers, Houston, you got Miami. I heard a couple people say Portland. I think at this point they're just broadening his options because he doesn't have a lot of years left. So you really have to look at where's the best fit for him right now. And
Raptors,
I think,
possibly?
No, not the Raptors. That's not the fit. I don't think that's the fit. We're still trying to figure things out for ourselves up here. So last thing we need is an almost retired Melo trying to.
That's right.
But I think that the best place for him to go would be Houston. I think CP is there. They're really good friends. He anchors that team, so he'll have that confidence boost. He'll know the guys going into it. There won't be any sort of fights or stepping on people's toes. He'll be able to blend in well. And they did get rid of Trevor Ariza.
That's right.
He's not there anymore. So that 3 position is missing, and that's Carmelo's position.
Right.
And with the kind of basketball that Houston plays, it's very ISO. It's very much shot related. And yes, they're gonna lose in the defense factor because Carmelo doesn't play any defense. But
really? Are you sure about that?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I don't think that guy knows how to spell defense.
Breaking news.
But Ariza didn't play much defense either.
Right.
So I don't think that
Ariza was a great defender.
No
he had his
way.
moments where he wasn't engaged, but he is a defensive player.
He was okay.
When he's engaged.
When he's engaged, yeah, and it seemed like.
Do you really think that Melo can, does he have the efficiency to be able? I mean, sure, he can put up he'll probably fit in terms of the volume shots that Houston takes. They like to take a lot of threes, but they're also fairly efficient for the most part. Unlike that last game there with Golden State.
But
will he fit in that particular system?
I think in a situation where you're in a game 7 like Houston was, obviously they were down CP and they had just Harden. I'd rather see Melo out there with Harden than seeing Ariza out there. That's how I look at it. I mean, Melo, his overall year, he scored 16.2 points. Ariza had 11. And that's Melo on a team with Paul George and Westbrook, and it's hard to get the ball out of those guys' hands.
For sure.
Like none other. So I think that he'll fit in well. I think he'll be comfortable, and I think at least he'll be able to run after a ring.
Yeah, I just think the most important thing for Carmelo at this point in his career is going somewhere where he can be happy and contribute to a team that is on the verge of winning a championship. And that's why, Steffany, I think you and I are going to get along, because I agree, the Houston Rockets, look, he's just not the same player he once was, and he needs to accept the fact that if he goes to a team like Houston, he's just not going to be the main guy. Now, I think Houston's a perfect spot for him. I know Mike D'Antoni and Melo didn't have the greatest relationship in New York. I think they can make this work because of the veterans surrounding Melo and Harden and his good friend Chris Paul. You got PJ Tucker over there. Also, there is a void left at small forward thanks to Trevor Ariza, like you mentioned. He signed with the Suns. So to me, that's his best destination for a chance to win. I know Los Angeles is very appealing, but they're not ready for a championship yet. Miami will be a nice fit, but they're a bottom seed playoff team in the East. So, and then you got the Sacramento Kings. They can throw them upwards of $20 million. But
you mean the Sacramento Queens?
Sacramento Queens, that's right. They'll be in the lottery by December. So,
but don't you guys think that at this stage of his career, and he hasn't necessarily had a very successful career, and I'm sure we'll discuss more of that in a second.
Yeah.
But I personally believe at this particular point where he is right now, he would be better served coming off the bench. Yes, there is a void, especially at the 3 position with Trevor Ariza leaving. Wouldn't you rather PJ Tucker kind of, you do need to have a little bit of defensive, tenacity to kind of begin the game. I think that Melo would be a lot more productive coming off that second unit, leading that second unit, being that leading scorer off the bench. And perhaps if he's playing well, you can use him in strategic situations, perhaps in the fourth quarter to close games.
I see where you're coming from, but I think with him right now, and because he's in that transitional point where it's like you're not as good, well, not that he, like you said, he wasn't the greatest, but you're not
He
as
used to
good
be
as you
better.
once
Yeah.
were.
Right.
And now you have to live with the fact that you're getting older and you have to kind of step back a little bit. And
Right.
he's had a hard time doing that. And I think it's an ego thing. And that's why he's not going to tell OKC, look, keep me and keep me on the bench. I'll play in the second line. He won't do that. That's why he's out. He's looking at different options of where he can come off the bench. Sorry, not come off the bench, but where he can start right out the gate. Because
Well,
mentally,
let's look at a guy like Dwayne Wade. I mean, you're talking about a 2-time NBA champion, 3-time NBA champion. Sorry, D Wade, sold you short there on one.
We
of
know
those.
he does listen
diminish
to our
his
show.
One of those
championships,
chips,
okay?
absolutely. You know, Dwayne humbled himself. He was able to, accept the fact that he's not the same player that he once was. You know, he came off of the bench in different stints there. I just don't see Melo as, first of all, having that drive, that motivation. I mean, yeah, maybe you put him in a better system, a team that's, somewhat championship. Yeah, I guess, the Rockets are,
And they're free
somewhat
flowing, right?
championship
Under Mike
built.
D'Antoni, he can jack up.
And they've played
5
together
on
before.
3.
Nobody's
Obviously,
gonna get
he
mad
has
at
some
him for taking
familiarity
shots.
there
Yeah.
with Mike D'Antoni. But I just think you need to have that, Jamal Crawford kind of player leading the second unit. A guy who can come in, doesn't have to worry about defense, doesn't have to worry about anything really but scoring. Because there is a little bit more pressure, let's just say a lot more pressure if you are one of the starting players. And one of those things in the league, you do want to definitely start off a game with that defensive presence, holding the opponent down to, let's say 25 points or less in the first quarter.
Right.
I just don't really see Melo at this particular point in his career really that engaged to have that role. I think he's best suited for a position off the bench.
I think that comes with time. I think eventually,
And I think the time is now.
Yeah, but you know what? Other teams don't think that. Like Houston wouldn't be
Melo
saying.
doesn't think that. Certainly.
Melo
He
doesn't
thinks-
think
he
it, so
thinks he
the other
still
teams are
has it.
still going with it, right?
Well, he'd be
But-
starting in Sacramento.
yeah,
if he
but
went to
until
Sacramento.
somebody puts their foot down and says, "Look, dude,"
Milo, I think you and I would be starting in Sacramento.
Absolutely.
I think I would get the starting position.
Absolutely.
My 5'3" stature.
You go, Steffi.
I think I'm good.
Probably be
I
their
would go-
center.
Oh, 100%.
man.
But I think that comes with time, and I think eventually teams will say, "Look, you're just not a starter.
Yeah, we'll definitely see what happens.
Take the bench or go home."
Yeah, so we'll definitely see what happens there. I'm just, not the biggest Melo fan in the world. He didn't particularly play very well in the playoffs against the Utah Jazz there. Jacked up a whole bunch of shots. Wasn't very efficient at all. Just doesn't really seem engaged. But maybe a change of scenery. Who knows exactly what he needs, and teaming up with one of his buddies. So we'll follow that story. We'll see what happens. Speaking of Carmelo Anthony, we did think it would be quite fitting to transition and discuss our top 3 most overrated players in NBA history. So you guys, you have your list prepared?
We
Yep.
do, yeah.
As I certainly have mine. So why don't we say ladies first? Steph, share with our audience, from your perspective, who would you say are the top 3 most overrated players in the history of the NBA?
I really hope that, like, Toronto fans out there, y'all don't hate me. This is just an opinion. This is what I think. So
Don't worry,
I'll
we'll
start.
protect you.
Okay, thank you.
Just give out your email
I'm
address
just
so you can
hidden
get the hate
behind a
mail
mic.
there.
It's
Yeah.
fine. It's fine. So I'll start with 3, and then I'll make it up to my overall pick.
Sure.
So I'm going to start with Andrew Wiggins. Number
okay.
3. Yes, I know he's obviously his career is not over. It's nowhere near over. But I
Canadian
mean,
kid.
so far coming into the league, I think.
It hasn't even begun yet, has it? Oh.
Well, it almost seems like that.
boy.
Then in the number 2 position, I have Vince Carter. And I love him. I'm a big Vince Sanity
Half
fan.
man, half amazing.
I love him, but I just think a little overrated. And then my number 1, I'm going to just shield myself on this one. Charles Barkley.
Oh, no.
Charles
I'm
Barkley.
so sorry.
That's Milan's
I
favorite
gotta-
basketball player.
I got to get up and leave now.
I'm
sorry.
so sorry. So we'll start with Andrew Wiggins. I think there was just so much hype in high school. He was so closely followed. He went to Kansas. He created a hype there. He came into the league. Everybody's like, Wiggins. And then the second year, you started to not hear about him anymore. And I
Yeah.
get it. Butler, and now he's got Teague there. So he's fighting with 2 big dogs. He's trying to get points up. But I think his mentality has never really been win-win-win. It's
Right.
always been, I'm going to rely on taking shots, and that's it. He plays almost no defense, and he's 6'8".
And they've
Like,
also been talking about Jimmy Butler having issues with him and
Yeah.
Karl Anthony Towns' work ethic.
And
right?
they say that he's just not a pleasant guy to have around. He doesn't really grind out. At the end of the day, he's got his shoes on, his suit on, and he's out the door.
Ready to go.
Where other guys are still on the court, they're still grinding it out. So I
But he
think
was nice enough to take a picture with my son 2 years ago at the game.
fair enough. But I think that's why he's a little overrated, and I think they paid him too much.
Yes.
148 million. I think that is way too much, especially for what he doesn't dude.
Agreed.
Right? And then, so moving on, Vince Carter. And you know what? Vince Carter, the 2000 slam dunk contest made him.
Historic, yep.
He was a great icon in Toronto. He put the Toronto Raptors on the map. I'm not going to overlook that. But if you look at everything that he did after the slam dunk contest, there wasn't really anything.
Let me ask you a question, Steph. So I think I don't remember what episode number was, Milo. Maybe you'll remember. We did do this thing in studio where we rated our top 3, best Raptors of all time in terms of our perspectives. Where would you rank Vince Carter as the greatest Raptor of all time? So you do believe he's overrated overall in terms of his NBA career, but as far as Raptors, where would you rank him as all-time Raptor player?
I'd probably rank him number 2.
Okay, behind.
Like I don't think behind
Jose Calderon.
No, Andrea Bargnani.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Rafael Arujo.
There we go.
We can
My
go on
goodness.
and on.
No, behind Chris Bosh.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
He was
so.
consistent.
I think, you know what, he was consistent. And then I put DeRozan, even though it's not over yet. We'll see what else he produces.
Okay.
But I don't think Vince Carter was overrated in Toronto. I think he was just overrated as a whole. The way that the Americans kind of pinned him and they're like, oh my God, he's so good. But he didn't. He went to the
He would
playoffs.
fly, kind of.
Yeah, and it was just, it was tricks, right? And then when he got hurt, he milked it. Like he was hurt, and he was hurt for a long
Yeah, he didn't
time.
seem to
And
have that passion. That
yeah, it wasn't
desire
like
to
I'm gonna
compete.
jump up, I'm gonna get back from this. It was no, I'm still hurt. Sorry, I can't play. I'm still hurt. And then
a guy
you just
who was probably blessed with all the skill in the world. You know what I mean? Very, very.
And there was
athletic,
just no
but just he
willingness,
didn't have that
no-
drive, that
exactly.
mental toughness.
He just stopped going to the basket,
Yeah.
right? He stopped dunking. He didn't want to dunk anymore. That's what
nothing.
he said.
And he
wanna
kind of
dunk.
just and then he's like he leaves Toronto and he's just like, you know what, I'm done here.
Yeah.
Like let me try something else. And
Went
then
to the
that's where you
Nets,
fall
yeah.
out. Right? But he could have stayed here. He
Yep.
could have stayed here and probably done a little bit more than what he had done.
With
but
T-Mac.
I mean, what
His
is
cousin,
it?
yep.
What it is, and we'll never know what it could have been.
Right.
And then my number 1 will be Charles Barkley, just because he never won anything.
Oh boy!
Like he was a great player.
But
with
a lot
11
of great players in that era did not win because of Mr. Michael Jordan.
Fair enough, but you can't blame him for everything.
But
I
you
mean,
can't put it all on Charles.
13 playoff appearances. You're telling me you couldn't make something out of 13 playoff
I
appearances?
think he had a very good
MVP.
career. I mean,
He had a great career,
especially
but
for
I
a
think
short guy, he
the
was
hype
able to grab
and, like-
some boards. He could
Yeah.
score with the best of them. He would bang, tenacious. Just his whole demeanor and his attitude and whatnot. I mean, you couldn't really mess with him.
It's like Drake's new song. I'm upset, Steph.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry that you're upset.
Yeah.
But I just
okay.
think that he's just, when you don't win anything, and like this goes back to anything, when you don't win a championship, how great were you?
Right.
You know, like the end goal in your career is to try to get a ring.
I hear what you're saying.
You know what I mean? You don't make it to the NBA just to say, oh, I wear this jersey or I got this shoe deal. You make it to the NBA to try to win.
I'm kind of digressing a bit, but would you put him in the category of, one of the greatest players to never win a ring?
Yes.
Because if that's your main argument, I mean, we can list a whole slew of
course.
There's other
Karl
Hall of Famers.
Malone.
Of course.
Oh, I was just
John
about to say
Stockton,
Karl
yeah.
Malone that, were great, especially, at their position. Karl Malone, arguably the greatest small forward. I'd put him
forward.
behind, power forward, sorry.
Yeah.
I'd put him behind Tim Duncan.
Yep.
But he's definitely top 3. I mean, he didn't win a ring once again because of MJ. So I wouldn't agree. I mean, your first 2 picks, the number 3 and number 2, okay, good. Charles Barkley, overrated.
Well, you know what? I watch him every day on TNT, and he's
You're just not a
he's
fan.
just sour, okay? You didn't win anything. Get over yourself, okay? Just sit there, talk nice,
to
and
have
that's
fun.
it.
He might be sour, but he has a
Shaq.
sweet tooth. That's
He
for sure.
does have a sweet tooth, but he is a
Loves
sour
his Krispy
man.
Kreme donuts. Yeah.
Oh, boy. So listen, Steph, thanks for sharing your list. Let me go ahead and share mine, guys. So number 3, we were just discussing Melo,
Okay.
Mr. Carmelo Anthony. And as I said, I'm not a big fan of Melo at all. I never was. He's a volume shooter. He's not very efficient at all. He's had multiple seasons in his career where he had more turnovers than assists. He's a horrible defender. He's only made it past the first round twice in his career. Let's just face it, guys. If it wasn't for his appearances in the Olympics, he would get 0, and I mean 0 consideration for the Hall of Fame. It's just because of those gold medals. That's the only reason why he'll get any consideration whatsoever. I just don't rate him at all, and I just think he's, very, very overrated. Number 2, I'm going kicking it old school. We're going with Stephon Marbury. Starbury. That's right, Starbury. So he was drafted by the T-Wolves. He became a huge sensation, obviously, in New York. This guy was huge. I mean, he was New York, a big, big sensation. But I asked the question, for what? For what? For nothing. He had all this flair, his street ball style and whatnot. But as far as substance goes, here's another inefficient volume shooter. He had no success in the playoffs. He didn't make his teammates better. It's
what about his career in China? He's been tearing it up.
I did see some clips when he, after obviously leaving the league,
Yeah, sure.
and he went overseas, but. No, and it's so funny. He actually said in an interview last year that he believes that his career was Hall of Fame worthy, and I just had to, laugh like out loud, LOL. There. I mean, once again, a guy who was pegged to be this big, great guy, King of New York, all this and that when he came over. There's just a lot of flair, very little substance. Last, my number one overall pick for the most overrated in the history of the National Basketball Association, and you might be surprised by this one, Mr. Yao Ming.
Wow.
You know what? I actually thought about him.
Okay.
I really did.
So here's the thing, guys. Yao had very decent career numbers. The career numbers were okay.
Right.
He blew up basketball in China. Obviously, he's the man over there. There's a lot of hype, this and that. He's in the Hall of Fame, so unlike the other two that I mentioned. But I call him overrated, and I pretty much put him up there as, the most overrated player in the league, simply because I just don't think he was that good a player whatsoever. So once again, he was picked first overall in a very weak draft. Quite frankly, what did he do in his career? He didn't win. He wasn't a winner. Unlike big guys like Dwight Howard and Shaquille O'Neal, Yao wasn't very athletic at all. He was just kind of, tall and clunky and whatever the case. He just wasn't built for, in my opinion, for the physicality of the NBA. Hence his many injuries, right? He missed a lot more games than probably he played. I just never really liked him as a player. I just believe that his height was one of his greatest assets.
And his impact off the court was probably huge.
Oh, that was
globally,
huge. Yeah, once
right?
again, that global impact, and not just Asia, world,
Right.
Around the world. But I just believe all of the hype surrounding him, I feel he failed to deliver. He just wasn't as good as, what he was pegged to be. I just don't think he was a very good basketball player, once again, outside of his height.
Cool. Well, I'll go with my top three here. So I'm going to go Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, and LeBron James. Nope, just kidding. It's not those three.
Hard stop.
Somebody's going to have a heart attack.
I don't even like LeBron, but come on.
So I'm going to go number three. He currently plays right now in the league, looking for a contract, not the old one, but the new one, Isaiah Thomas. He had one great season with the IT. He had one great season with the Celtics a couple of years ago, and everyone was ready to crown him one of the best players in the NBA. Big-time liability on the defensive end, and just can't play in any system and be successful. I think Brad Stevens put him in a position to succeed. He did. He got traded to the Cavaliers. And
That's a very good one.
Yeah, it just hasn't worked out for him. Number two, I'm not a big fan of this guy, and you know that he's being considered for the Hall of Fame.
I know exactly you're
I
going.
don't understand why. Chris Webber.
C-Web, yep.
C-Web, I am not a fan of Chris Webber. I never liked his game. I know he had some great wars with the Lakers in the early 2000s while he was with the Sacramento Kings.
He had some timeout issues in college.
Yeah, absolutely. But he was never able to help his team get over the hump. And as a leader, I think you need to be able to do that. Getting back to your point with Charles Barkley, as big as a fan I was, I have to agree. He wasn't able to get his team over that hump to get the championship. But he did make it to the finals. Chris Webber did not do that. So I would put him at number two. And number one, I'm going to go with a former Raptor, inducted in the Hall of Fame, Tracy McGrady.
Oh,
I think
interesting.
McGrady was
as a number one.
No, as a number one. I think he's
Wow.
he's my most overrated player. I think he was a solid player, but never led a team to a playoff series
Didn't he
win.
win 2 scoring titles?
Won 2 scoring titles, but what's a scoring title going to give you?
It's going to give you the
did
most
it-
points in the
Did
league.
it give him a playoff? You know me, I like championships. I like rings.
It's
I
all
like
about
wins.
winning. Yep.
Yeah.
And he never led a team to a playoff series win, and he gets inducted in the Hall of Fame. I just don't get it.
Yeah, there are a lot of people that definitely question his induction.
Yeah.
I'm kind of borderline with that, but that's an interesting.
I think he's overrated. He got a lot of hype. Tracy, if you're listening, I love you, brother. But you're a little
Should've stayed in Toronto.
Yeah, should have stayed in Toronto. A little sour about that. Went to the Magic. Went to Houston. I think he hatched onto the Spurs right at the end
He tried,
of his
yes.
career. I
So,
think
yeah.
that's where he finally got a playoff series win, but really didn't help the
Again,
team at
yeah.
all. So those are my three.
Interesting. Guys, thank you for sharing your picks. It's a very good conversation.
Feel free to give us your feedback on our website or
and don't hate us
social
for it.
media. Yeah.
Yes, for sure. So, guys, as we wind down our NBA segment, let's discuss some TP, Tony Parker, who spent his entire 17-year career with the San Antonio Spurs. It was announced last week that he was teaming up with the GOAT and joining Michael Jordan on the Hornets. Guys, real quick, what are your thoughts? I mean, I was surprised. I mean, what a move. Leaving the San Antonio Spurs after 17 seasons. What did you think, guys?
I was surprised and a little bit disappointed, because nowadays it's so hard to find loyalty in this league. Like you see guys
loyalty.
jumping around. There is no loyalty.
There is no loyalty.
And like you had the big three there. You had Ginobili, who's still there. I guess it's up in the air whether he's going to play another season or not. He'll probably play one more season.
He'll probably retire with Pop, I would imagine.
Exactly, yeah. And then Duncan, he's gone.
One of my favorite players of all time.
It's a little bit disappointing, but you almost look at it, and I heard a lot of opinions, and I was reading a lot of articles, and they're saying that they're looking at the future San Antonio and whether they let him go or he just chose to go himself, because I know that the contract numbers were very close. There wasn't a big difference between what San Antonio had offered him and what Charlotte had offered him. And it was obviously a big deduction.
Well, it seemed like it was a basketball decision from Tony's standpoint. It's not like he, went to, I guess this phrase nowadays we call it ring chasing, where he teamed up with a super team or whatever the case. And you're not going to expect that much on the Hornets. What were your thoughts?
So obviously it's a situation where I think everyone thought they would see Tony Parker retire as a member of the Spurs. He's getting, $5 million per season over the next 2 years to play a backup role to Kemba Walker if Kemba's still around. But Parker mentioned he wanted to play for his idol, Michael Jordan, who owns the Hornets. New head coach James Borrego came over from the Spurs, so there's familiarity there. And he wanted to play with his so-called little brother and French national teammate Nick Batum. So that was important to him. So me personally, I've always admired Parker's game. He got better every year. He mastered his mid-range jumper and was a huge contributor to those championships, one in the 2000s. So I personally wish him all the best. I think he's wants to end his career happy, and that's what he's going to happen in Charlotte.
You think he has more than 1 year left, or you think it's just?
I think he'll play the last 2 years. I think he'll play 2 years. That's the deal, and then he'll retire.
Is there an option for the second year, or is it just straight 2 years?
I'll have to double check that fact.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so guys, it's just been a very interesting, it hasn't even been a full 2 weeks since the NBA free agency opened up. There's obviously a few more names out there. Most teams are a little bit strapped in terms of, finances, so we'll see what transpires. We'll stay on top of the NBA talk. Thanks for joining us, Steph.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah,
and
tell us once again where our audience can connect with you online. You do have your own sports show.
Yes, so on YouTube, I'm Steffi's World in Sports. And then on Instagram, I'm Steph Dilleto. So that's Steff, because I don't spell it the traditional way. Steff, and then Diletts. Steph Dilleto is my Instagram. So you can connect with me there. Comment on my videos. I'm all about opinions. I love opinions because not everybody's opinion's the same. And at the end of the day, you're talking sports. It's not the end of the world. Whether you're wrong, you're right.
It's all opinions.
It's all opinions, right?
We
and
love
you have
your
to
show.
have fun.
Milo and I have
you.
been watching your
Thank
last
you
little
so
while.
much.
A lot of passion, a lot of energy. So we definitely wanted to bring you on the show. Thanks for coming in and joining us. Guys, thanks for your talk. Thanks for your time. Toronto Talk Sports and more. Greetings, folks. Welcome back to yet another edition of And More here on Toronto Talk Sports and More, episode number 15. Hez here alongside Milo, and we're very pleased to be joined by legendary Canadian stand-up comedian and actor, the one, the only, Kenny Robinson. What's up, bro?
Hey, today I feel like the luckiest man alive.
Welcome, Kenny. Welcome.
You're alive and well. Good to see you, brother. So, indeed, Kenny is a true legend of comedy, having performed all over the world. He shared the stage with Chris Rock, Jim Carrey, Dave Chappelle, Russell Peters, Tommy Davidson, Margaret Cho, just to name a few. Kenny is also co-host of the Gemini Awards. He's hosted radio shows, several comedy specials. The list goes on and on.
I can't keep a job.
As I said, the man's a legend.
They let me do it once and I'm gone. So I can't keep a gig. Something's wrong with me.
We'll work on that. Born and raised in Winnipeg, right?
I was born in Winnipeg, and then because of legal problems that my mother had, they threw me in the back seat, and they flipped a coin, heads Chicago, tails New York, and it came up heads.
So you've been in the game of comedy, Kenny, for over 40 years. What would you say are some of the major changes in the game today, 2018, compared to, let's say, even just 20 years ago? And another follow-up to that is, how would you say social media, what effect has social media played in the industry?
Well, there's been so many changes. I mean, first of all, there's so many damn comics now, and there's so many open mic rooms where, comics are so desperate for stage time or to become comedians.
A lot more quantity as opposed to quality.
They're playing for free.
Right. Oh, okay.
So, we used to get, like, back in the 80s, every Fox and Fiddle in the GTA had a Wednesday night or a Sunday night comedy night.
Right.
Where their budget was $500 or $600, and there's $100 commission, and then a headliner, an opener, and an MC. They took home money. And now, now you go and you go there and they give you one free beer ticket, and there's 25 guys waiting to go on.
And it just kills it, obviously, for
it kills the business.
Right on.
So it's changed from that. Also, I'm kind of surprised by what comedians can get away with now.
Which is?
Almost everything.
No rules.
Compared to when I was breaking the rules.
Okay.
Yeah, I broke the rules. Now there are no rules. So guess who cries that there should be rules? This guy.
That's right. Well, Kenny, I'm a huge stand-up comedy fan. I love the Comedy Central roasts, which are my favorite. But I grew up watching Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor, Rodney Dangerfield, and I have a personal connection with Russell Peters. So I'm always up for a good laugh. But who are some of the guys or girls that you kind of looked up to growing up and still to this day?
Oh, when I started out, I guess as a kid was Jonathan Winters, and what made me decide I wanted to get into stand-up was Pryor.
Richard, yeah.
And then Dick Gregory is also an early influence. The more you become involved with the rebel comedy, is the more then you start checking out Lenny Bruce.
Yep.
And, and then Red Fox is a big
Going way back,
influence.
yeah.
So, and now today, I like Cat Williams.
Yeah, he's funny.
I've watched quite a bit of him the past couple.
A little bit of legal trouble, but he's a pretty funny guy.
But you know what? He's just an asshole, and he's crazy. And every week there's it's almost kind of like it's almost like when Pryor used to get in trouble every week.
Right.
Damn, he shot up his wife's house. Did you hear what he said? The gay rights benefit. Oh, he just got caught with blow again.
That's right.
So with Cat, he's like, what? He pistol whipped an ice cream man.
No filter.
What? A 12-year-old boy beat his butt at the playground.
Right.
So I mean, every week there was something different with Cat. Chappelle is a genius.
Yeah.
Chris Rock. I mean, he sets the tone for everything.
I just love his voice. He has a funny sounding voice.
You like a Kevin Hart fan? He's up and coming in the game.
Well, Kevin is.
He's in every single movie,
yeah.
like known to man. Like, how does this guy? Does he have time to
First time Kevin ever had a chance to do sketch comedy, or I think even TV, was my show After Hours.
Oh, right on.
That we filmed in August and September 2001.
Okey-doke.
So Leslie Jones also made her sketch debut
SNL,
on
yeah.
that show.
Right.
Very nice.
So I knew Kevin when he was Little Kev.
Oh, okay.
When he
He's
was
still Little Kevin, right?
Yeah, but his stage
Height-wise.
name was Little Kev, and then he got some management. They said, "Well, you're not a rapper, and you're not Little Kim, and
Right.
what have you." So I mean, I've known the guy many years, and he was, he used to drive from Philly to here and back for terrible amount of money in Canadian funds.
Right.
So he's always had the hustle there. So
Yeah.
I don't resent or regret seeing him being probably the highest paid comic in the business.
really
Remember he
well
had that online beef with Michael Blackson?
That's right,
months
yeah.
ago? That was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Well, Black's is a funny cat too.
Hey, he's funny.
Cool, he's cool. Yeah. He has a couple jabs here and there. So, Kenny, my favorite television sitcom of all time is Seinfeld. You a fan?
I never watched it.
never
I
watched
hated
Seinfeld?
Jerry Seinfeld.
Oh, boy.
For several
on.
reasons.
Okay.
First of all, I hated Seinfeld because he became
As a comedian.
as a comedian.
Right, okay.
He became the image or the plate of what every comic was supposed to be. It's supposed to be clean.
Right.
And
Well, it's a different brand of comedy. I actually saw him live in Hamilton a few
yeah,
years
well, see,
back.
but he became him and Shanley and what have you. It's like, well, if you want to get on TV, you have to be like these guys. If you want to get anywhere, you have to be like these guys.
Squeaky clean.
And
Yeah.
meanwhile, I was watching Bobcat Goldthwait while he was doing the Police Academy
Yep.
movies in Toronto.
Yeah.
Every
Classic.
night he came in and did guest spots, and I've seen him just demolish things. I got to work and I watched Sam Kinison empty a room where the only people left were like 8 people in the front and all the comedians that were all stoned and were leaning against the back wall and not
Right.
believing what we just seen hit us.
Wow.
Paul Mooney, when I worked a week with Paul Mooney when Breslin brought him in the Yuck Yucks following the LA riots. Okay. So for, the squeaky Caucasian comic next door, that wasn't,
No.
Didn't cut it.
That wasn't for me,
Well, his show obviously was very, very successful. So the reason I asked that, there was an episode, it was episode number 9, the final season of Seinfeld. It was called The Cartoon, where comedian Kathy Griffin, she plays a struggling comedian on the show named Sally Weaver. And Jerry, he has a private conversation with Kramer telling him how Sally, really sucks at comedy and acting and whatnot, and how she should quit the business altogether. So Kramer, being the loose goose, no filter as he is, he shares, that conversation that he had with Jerry, with Sally, telling her, hey, Jerry says this and that, you suck, you should quit the business, blah, blah, blah. So a bunch of hilarity took place in the episode. Basically, the question is, as a comedian, as a legendary comedian, how critical are you of other comics? And if you were, had a fairly close relationship with maybe a fellow struggling comedian who you felt had no hope of making it in the business, how would you approach that situation?
Well, one thing's for sure, I'm not about trying to pee on anybody's parade.
Right on.
I'm not trying to, take a dump on anybody's dreams.
You're an encourager.
So, yeah.
Even if they suck.
Well, if they suck, and if there's nothing good I could say, I go, well, you got good stage presence, kid. And I like your energy.
Is it one of those things, Kenny, comedian, as far as comedy, that you either have it or you don't? Or
no.
Sometimes
it takes to find the comic. Richard Pryor said it takes a comic 7 to 12 years to even figure out what kind of comic they are.
Okay.
So, in fact, before the Nubians started, there used to be a comic in town named Mr. Mo.
He was on from The Buzz.
The Buzz.
Classic.
Right. Well, okay, so anyway, I kept hearing all about Mr. Mo.
Yeah.
But nothing good about Mr. Mo. And then somebody that was had an influence on Mo making the next step said, you ought to see Mo. He sends your people back 25 years. And that got me mad because I thought every time I drank, I set our people back 25 years. Right. I didn't want anybody taking our setting the people back 25 years job from me.
Right.
So, and they said he's this, and then they said another comic looks like something off the Apollo, and I'm going, man, if you knew anything about the Apollo, you knew what that meant. So anyway, I watched Mo, and I said, no, he's not setting the race back. He doesn't know how to set a joke up.
Right.
That's all. He's not, he's not ignorant. He's not without talent.
Just need some practice and a little bit of help and guidance.
He needed somebody to say, well, you need
mentorship.
Yeah,
encouragement.
So
I loved him on The Buzz with Darren Jones. Those guys were hilarious.
They
One
were.
of my favorite shows growing up.
So the thing was, I decided that if I wasn't the one to try and put my foot in the door and open it for them, then who would?
Right.
So that's how the Nubian show was basically born.
Perfect. Well, I'm sure you've traveled not only just in North America, but all over the world and done some comedy skits. So I just want to ask you, what are some of your favorite cities to perform in and why?
I love Johannesburg, South
nice.
Africa. I was there for 3 weeks.
Nice.
I
treated you well?
I upset a lot of people.
It's okay.
But then again, I said, well, look, a lot of these folks just caught on to the idea of one man, one vote recently.
Right.
So somebody's speaking their mind, and I passed out copies of the CD I had, and all the black comics are coming from like miles around, like I was passing out Bibles. We have not heard so much freedom.
Oh my goodness.
So, and the beautiful thing was about, as the club owner told me, that he says, in North America, you've made your history. You're just trying to pay your mortgage, raise your children.
Right.
In South Africa, history changes every week. So when I was there, the ANC was trying to distance himself from somebody else. And then, what's his name? Manila. Anyway, there was he just stepped down as being president of South Africa.
Not Mandela.
No, Mandela was already out. But
and what year was that, Kenny? When you were there?
I can't remember. It was maybe 8 years ago, 10 years ago.
So more recently, yeah.
So it was right when Obama first got elected.
Oh, okay, right.
04, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, 08.
Oh, okay,
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
yes.
So I said, in North America, we're very excited. We have our first black president, Obama, and they applauded. It says, here in South Africa, you've already had yours. It's not a big deal. In fact, you've had the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Oh, wow.
So, and every day there was some new material. And then, people asked me if I was going to kiss the motherland.
Right.
And I said, no, because white people let their dogs crap there and don't pick them up.
Right.
So, no.
How they roll?
So, everywhere I went, there was dog crap laid around. So I wasn't kissing the motherland there. It was still soiled by the colonizers.
Any other cities come to mind?
I love Calgary. I just came back from doing a couple of showcase gigs in Las Vegas.
Nice.
And I'm mad at myself for not playing Vegas 25 years ago.
Okay.
So Russell's got a house there. He told me next time let him know and I can stay at his place.
Nice.
One of his houses.
Yeah, one of them.
So, yeah.
So listen, Kenny, your brand of stand-up is definitely considered edgy. One could say that Kenny Robinson spits in the face of political correctness. Perhaps tell us about an incident where, maybe you were on stage and you said something, perhaps it was taken the wrong way or a little bit of backlash. What kind of comes to mind there?
Well, there's been all kinds of different brawls.
Are you a troublemaker, Kenny?
no. Okay, here's a perfect example. Okay, 20 years ago, I'm doing Alberta. The big thing was not wanting Sikhs to wear their turbans in the legions.
Right.
Interesting. Yes.
Okay,
yes.
so I said, never mind taking off your turban in the Legion. It's not a, and this is where I offended people. I said, it's not a shrine to the fallen dead. It's a place for old alcoholics to sing White Cliffs of Dover and get cheap booze. And I said, and if I win a lottery, I'm buying I'm buying all the legions, and everybody gets to wear turbans.
Oh
So
my
of
word.
course I'm saying this out in Red Deer,
Yes.
and all up in there.
Right on,
so
right on.
so of course they started, some places the N-word gets thrown up there, and but I mean that was something, I definitely, and then or even Mounties wearing turbans,
Right.
and they say, they'd use the slang with the P word, and
Have you ever had to kind of apologize on stage where something right there in the moment kind of rub someone the wrong way?
Comedians
No.
don't apologize.
No. But I'll tell you what I did. I've learned how to kind of apologize.
Right.
I say, I'm sorry if you were offended.
Right.
I'm not sorry I said it. Perfect example, here's what happened to me in South Africa. So after a show, these two big old boys are buying me drinks and everything. It's okay. Then this guy's been glaring at me all night. He comes up to me and goes, you offended me? You offended my wife? You offended marriage. And I said, what do you mean I offended marriage?
Offended the institution
I
of
said,
marriage.
the institution, the concept. What kind of marriage did I offend? Did I offend marriage for the sake of the kids? Marriage because you can't afford to get divorced?
Right.
It was an arranged marriage? What kind of a marriage?
Be more specific, right?
So anyway, he says, are you really married? And I said, well, who would say they weren't if they weren't?
Right.
Yeah,
wow.
So anyway, he says, well, you offended my wife. And I says, well, I'm sorry your wife's offended. So anyway, he walks away, and the two guys that were buying me drinks goes, that's our brother. And I'm going,
There we go.
well, I guess there's no more drinks coming. So the one guy goes, your opening joke you did, which I won't do now because you guys are relatively polite gentlemen. But
You'd be
he
surprised.
says your first joke offended him and her because our brother used to be a notorious homosexual. So I started laughing because he's a notorious homosexual.
Notorious. I've never heard that.
That's like people from miles around knew about his homosexuality.
Notorious.
I said, is he like the notorious FAG? I mean, who is he? This man's notorious. The notorious B.I.G. in Sun City got the notorious FAG, So apparently a joke I did reminded his wife when he used to be gay. So they started bumping each other. So as I'm leaving...
So basically you ruined their marriage.
No, I reminded him that he had sugar in his tank, So the problem is, I said, all these years people made me feel bad when they were offended, or I said something, hurt something. I said, you know what? The baggage is theirs.
Yeah, it's bound to happen.
The baggage is theirs, because how do I know it's going to offend anybody when they walk through the door?
Exactly.
Once I told a joke about capital punishment, and Clifford Olson was the reference, and this girl who was my cousin's friend's date. I made a reference about Clifford Olson. This is out in Vancouver, and she ran in the club crying. I'm going, oh damn! There goes my family's friend running. What have I done now to my company's guests? And she was upset because her ex-boyfriend was in jail with Clifford Olson, and I shouldn't have said that about Clifford. Well, he killed children. I'm sorry if me saying bad things about a child killer hurts your feelings.
And they choose to come to the show, so they got to expect something.
I don't know what's
It's comedy.
Yeah.
I mean,
plus you don't know what's gonna upset. Now there's trigger words.
Yeah.
There
Now
are
they
trigger
want
words.
safe spots. Now,
Yes.
How do you know, you can't make a cancer reference. My wife just died of cancer. Well, I'm sorry I didn't have...
One of my favorite comedians, Jeff Ross, he always says comedy causes pain sometimes, right? So
I always say the good comedy makes somebody want to punch you in the face.
absolutely, that's right.
But I mean, it's just so many different things just causes people to be upset about.
Yeah, and you can't please everyone. At the end of the day, people go there. You're supposed to obviously have a good time, and you should be able to dust things off. But
and just kind of piggybacking off of...
You got to worry about what I say on Facebook every day.
and I do have you on Facebook. You're a funny guy, that's for sure.
Like a comic friend of mine in Buffalo, I had a big fight with two people on his board. He said, be on the lookout. Lots of light-skinned children running around downtown causing trouble.
Okay.
So I said, be on the lookout for them. They all have good hair and good credit. Well, A black woman called me out on that because I was insulting all the black people that don't have good hair and good credit. So I said, well, look at my picture. I got no hair.
How's the credit?
And next to no credit. I said, so, let's not be getting sensitive, but people, people want to have
life is too
sensitive.
short. We got to learn to just laugh and just, let go.
But now I've gotten to the point where I say things intentionally.
Do what you got to do.
Intentionally.
I was just going to piggyback off of Hez's last question. Some comedians over the years have some meltdowns on stage, such as Kramer from Seinfeld. Most recently, Lisa Lampanelli. She went off on a heckler. Have you ever been in that type of situation or any similar story you can share with us?
Not in years.
Not in years, okay.
But, man, I used to have a couple of good ones.
Yeah.
I had one in Halifax, Nova Scotia, where...
so these would be like regular hecklers. So or is it just brand new heckler, like you didn't know them?
It's just a bad Saturday night where, the audience decided to get kind of moody with me, and I decided
they were probably upset to begin with.
And I wasn't going to take, and I was saying how Halifax is the Mississippi of the North, and I was talking about the racism that they have there every day. And
that's historic. You can't
but you're not supposed to mention that.
No.
We came here to hear jokes. Well, I'm going to tell jokes about racist white people.
Tell you the truth.
So, so I had that. Let's see, probably one of the better meltdowns I had was at a Nubian show about 15, 20 years ago. Daryl Lennox is one of the top comics in North America. He was there, and they booed him off. And because he has a very positive approach to his comedy.
Right.
He goes, hey, I grew up in America. I come to Canada, and people say a lot of racism here, but, I say it's not that damn bad. And people here didn't want to hear that.
Yes.
Because he knows American racism. Don't come here and tell us that ours doesn't count.
Right.
Because when you're getting pulled over, you're still getting pulled over.
Same deal.
Yeah.
But he was, so I guess the audience felt that he was just, discounting ours because it's Canadian and maybe it's politer or harder to be seen. So I went on stage and I said, I've never been embarrassed or ashamed of this audience before. You're a bunch of ignorant MFs, and I'd rather have half a crowd of people that are intelligent.
Was that on camera, by the way?
I told him I'd rather have half a crowd of smart, intelligent people that can think and listen than a full room of ignorant like you guys.
Wow, you gave it to him.
Man, next 3 months, my show was half empty. I chased away all the ignorant MFs.
They didn't quite work out there.
I couldn't get an ignorant MF back to my show for 2 years, man.
Well, you stood your ground. You stood up for what you believed in.
Well, they say, which hill do you want to die on?
Well, yeah. So you pick your poison or whatnot.
So I said, well, in the future, I don't think I really need to dig a grave for anything.
Maybe not. So listen, okay, before we wind off, we want to play a little game with you called TTS Comedy Movie Trivia.
Okay.
We're going to say a line from a famous comedy movie, and you have to guess the name of the movie.
All right.
Are you ready?
Let's try it.
All righty. So, we hope you don't get too embarrassed here, but if so, that's all great for us. Are you a big fan of comedy movies? I know you're
not really. I prefer gangster films, westerns, stuff like that. Yeah.
All right, good. So, Milo, why don't you go ahead?
Sure, I'll go first.
How many questions we got?
5. So we'll take turns. We'll alternate. But this one's kind of classic. I think you should know it. It's Do Not Go In There. Woo!
Oh, that's a Jim Carrey movie.
Yeah.
You got the actor, right?
Dumb and Dumber?
Close. Ace Ventura, Pet Detective.
Okay.
He gets half a point for that one.
Yeah.
After he went to the bathroom.
Yeah.
All right, so let me go with one here.
I saw Jim Carrey and his dad pee in the sink of a bar in a club years ago.
Oh, boy.
Wow.
That's the inside scoop.
We'll run with that one.
Reminds me of that Adam Sandler movie.
Yeah.
All right, so I wish I was able to do voices, but I don't do character voices. Otherwise, I could have a little bit of fun with this. So I'll just say it in my normal voice. We got the warhead, and we hold the world ransom for $1 million.
I can maybe do a voice for $1 million.
That would have to be that English spy, the man that came from Scarborough.
Yep.
You're good. You're
would
good.
be Myers.
Yeah.
Mike Myers, yep.
And what film would it be?
It's a city in Texas.
Austin Powers.
There you go.
There we go. There we go.
All
Very
right.
good. You're
This
good.
one's a little bit more recent. So it's not a man purse. It's called a satchel. Indiana Jones wears one.
Oh, that one I don't know.
No, we'll give you the answer. Zach Galifianakis in The Hangover.
Have you seen The
Oh,
Hangover?
yes. Okay.
Yeah. When he had the little man purse there.
But I tend to remember mostly Mike Tyson from that one.
Yeah, that's
Now,
right.
see, that was a man whose whole career had been whitewashed and forgiven.
Yes.
You know, I mean, Mel Gibson, they said, do you remember what he said about us? But
Boy,
you know,
don't get me started on Mel.
but you know why? That's because Jimmy Kimmel let him sing those Christmas carols with that speech lisp in the Christmas sweater.
That's right.
And they showed that lovable, goofy, you know, Big Huey that grew up in a crack house side of Mike Tyson, as opposed to the beater of women and eater of ears. You know, so they completely changed his personality and his image on that.
Definitely. So here's the fourth one.
Okay.
Did Doogie Howser just steal my effing car?
Hey, dude, where's my car?
Nope.
Okay.
It's has a lot of marijuana references. I'll give you a little quote.
Oh.
We're two guys, brown guy and...
okay, yes.
They get the munchies.
Yes, it was filmed here in Toronto.
It was.
And
Did
it was
Doogie Howser
with Dave
just steal
Chappelle
my...
and the Goat Boy from Saturday Night Live were in that film. And
it's
it
called...
was Burnt? No.
Harold...
Oh, no, okay, that's different. That's different thing altogether. That's Harold and Kumar.
Harold and
yes,
Kumar.
White Castle.
Go to White Castle.
The
There you go.
burgers.
That's
yes,
right.
Yes.
That's why any little hamburger you see they call it a slider is a lie. The White Castle is the one only an original slider.
That's the original slider.
And you know why they
Yes.
call it the slider?
Why is that?
Because it was on the grease they cook it.
Okay.
And if you eat them, they slide right down.
Makes
in the morning,
sense.
they slide right out. Now, every little tiny burger, they call it a slider.
They do, yeah.
Which is in the case. That's like calling any old cola Coke. It's not.
Right.
So, you know, anybody else calling anything else other than a White Castle slider is BS.
Excellent.
So final one. This is a conversation between two people.
Uh-oh.
So the first one is, did you say Utes? The other person says,
That's my cousin Vinny.
there you go. I won't even finish the sentence. You got
Classic.
it.
One of my favorites.
The two Utes. That's
I
right.
thought you were going to go back to like real old ones. I was expecting like Dr. Strangelove.
I think we're a little too young for that, so that's why they kept it kind of
Man,
recent.
so that was fun, Kenny. Thanks a lot, and thanks for
you.
joining us here on and more for Toronto Talk Sports and more. Before we close off this segment, I want you to let our audience know how they can connect with you, your website, perhaps your social media handles, and what you have going on in terms of. I know you do a regular comedy show once a month.
Okay.
What's up?
Well, let's see. You can catch myself and 7 to 8 of Toronto's finest comics every last Sunday of the month at Yuck Yucks, 224 224 Richmond Street West. It's Nubian, Kenny Robinson's Nubian show. We're entering our 23rd year. And
We'll promote that online.
It's the first original and the hottest night of urban comedy in the country. And if you haven't seen the show before, it's probably the hottest night of comedy in the country.
And you'll leave us some free tickets before you leave, right?
Yeah, I'll hook you guys up.
heck not?
We'll hook you guys
I
up.
appreciate that.
Also, I'm doing Barrie. I'm doing a spot in Barrie on
a little north of the
14th
city.
of the month.
Very nice. Okay.
I wish I could remember the name of the place, but go to Kenny Robinson on Facebook. And what's my website? KennyRobinson.com.
KennyRobinson.com.
Yeah, anything else would have been too complicated.
Makes sense. And on Facebook, it's Kenny Robinson.
Yeah.
Okay, so simple Facebook.com.
I think it is, but
Kenny Robinson. Once again, Kenny, legendary Canadian comedian. Really appreciate you taking all the time to
Appreciate you
come
having
and
me here.
talk some sports with
great.
us and tell us a little bit about what you've been working on and, talk a little bit of comedy. On behalf of Milo and the Toronto Talk Sports family, we appreciate your appearance. Thanks so much to our audience for tuning in. Toronto Talk Sports and more.
Thank you, everyone, for listening to another episode of Toronto Talk Sports and More. I want to give a big thanks to everyone that joined us on the show today. Mario Armani from Royal LePage Real Estate, Canadian track and field star Aaron Brown, our in-studio guest Steffany Dilleto of Steffi's World in Sports, and legendary Canadian stand-up comedian who joined us for our baseball and more segment, the fabulous Kenny Robinson. It certainly was a pleasure having you all on. Our next episode of Toronto Talk Sports and More, episode number 16, will be released on Thursday, July the 19th. Please remember to subscribe to our weekly podcast for free on Google Play Music or on iTunes by searching Toronto Talk Sports. You can also check us out on our social media platforms, Instagram and Facebook, Toronto Talk Sports, and on Twitter, TO Talk Sports. Toronto Talk Sports and More. For the love of the six, let's connect.
Thank you for tuning into Toronto Talk Sports and More. Please subscribe to our podcast via Apple iTunes or Google Play Store. And stay tuned for new episodes, prizes, and surprises at TorontoTalkSports.com.